My name is Neil Singer. I'm going to share with you some information about technology and property. Now, this is the first time I've ever done a webinar, so please bear with me if I make the odd mistake along the way. What we're going to do, I'm going to try and just share with you some of my knowledge of property and technology. I'll ask a couple of questions along the way so we can all see what everyone thinks about the world of technology and property, and you're all going to get 1 hour of CPD if you want it. You'll see that you can actually ask some questions along the way. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you can type in some questions, and I will try my best to answer if anybody's got anything they want to ask. Now, what I want to also do is I want to show you something later on. If you've got your phones with you, go on to your Facebook on your phone and look me up, because I want to show you something on my newsfeed which I think you might find quite interesting. So look me up as Neil Singer on Facebook, all right, and we'll use that later. Okay, so let's give you some background about why I'm doing this. Well, the reason is quite simple, really. I've been in the property game 25-30 years, traditional agent, buying and selling property like everyone else, making the odd phone call. 10 years ago, went online with our marketing at CVL, our agency, saw the power of the internet, saw the power of technology in property, have gained quite a lot of knowledge on it over the last 10 years, and particularly the last 5, and thought it'd be interesting to try and share that knowledge with people. Always interested to hear what people have to say, which is why I'd like to encourage you to ask questions during the webinar. Okay, so what we're also going to do is we're also going to ask a few poll questions during the webinar, just to see people's responses. Let's just check that everyone, let's make sure I'm doing it properly, but let's just check that everyone knows how to use the polling. So here's an example of the first question. If people can please answer. Oh, hello. Someone says I can't seem to hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah, Seb, that might be at your end. Oh, good. Right, you're on. Okay, good. Right, so going back to the poll, are you a man or a woman? You can see that hopefully that's quite easy for people to see the poll and to enter your questions, enter your answers rather. And when you're finished, let's give it a moment for people to. We've got 21 people. Let's see what happens. Almost there. Well, let's just end the voting now, just so we can actually get an idea. And now you can see that by sharing the result, you should be able to see, everyone can see the result on screen. So we're going to ask a couple of questions along the way, just to help people out. Now let's go into the world of property. Okay, so right. Okay. Oh, first mistake of the day. Right, what's happening in technology? Right, let's talk about the internet. The internet is the most powerful business tool in the world, no question. We've seen the power of it in our own agency. So let's first of all, I may have already given you the answer, but again, let's just see for everyone's for people's interest. The second question we've got is: there are 7 billion people in the world. How many people do you think are on the internet at any one time? So, and you can be honest, because I probably showed you the answer. Okay, well, either people are very clever, or I did my first mistake of the day, as I'm new to all this. Anyway, the answer is that there's 7 billion people in the world, and as you can see, the answer is correct. Is there actually are around 3 billion people at any one time accessing the internet. If you think about it, it's quite phenomenal. And on the graph I've got in front of you, you can see the rise since 2006. We've gone up from just over 1 billion to 3 billion. So half the world at any one time are on the internet. If you look where in the world they're on the internet, Not surprisingly, in Asia, a lot of people in the West think it's the West, but Asia is by far the leading the charge of using the internet. Now, the next thing which actually I want to ask you, which I think is very interesting, is how many people, how they're accessing the internet. We know how many people there are. So what I want to ask you is how many people do you think are accessing the internet on a mobile phone compared to a computer? And you may be quite surprised. In a world where, okay, all right, we're almost done, I think, with the voting. Well, actually, that's quite interesting. I have to say that's quite interesting. So we've got a result where about 50% of people believe that the internet is accessed by 44%. Actually, 56% of people use a computer, and you're quite right, 44% use a mobile device to access the internet. Actually, I'm a bit surprised by that. I actually thought that people would not realize it was that many. But what's interesting from the graph, which I've now got in front of you, is the rapid rise on a mobile. If you look from, say, virtually nowhere, 2009, 10, 40% are using a mobile phone. So if you're not embracing mobile technology in your business, you are nowhere. Let me talk about Google. Google is without doubt the most powerful business in the world, in my opinion. What you may be surprised at is how many people use Google to access the internet from a mobile device. 94% use Google. So if you're not embracing Google in your business, you're missing out on a huge customer base in whatever business you're involved with. Social media. Now, I'm forever told that social media is not for property and is not for business. Well, look at the result. Look at the results. 2.3 billion people are on social media at any one time. That's a third of the world's population are on social media. So if you're ignoring social media in your business, you are ignoring a huge area of revenue. You're ignoring a huge customer base. Now, again, I can only talk for my own agency, but in our agency, we are very into using the social media in any way we possibly can. 90% of the property world do not use it, think it is something for kids. It is not something for kids. And if we move on, you actually have a look and see, again, the growth of social media. Of course, everyone knows about Facebook. Look at the rapid rise of Facebook. Everyone knows about Twitter. 500 million tweets a day sent on Twitter. Again, it's not something for kids. It's a way of accessing the marketplace. LinkedIn. LinkedIn, in my opinion, the most useful social media tool out there for business. It's a fantastic way of accessing people you may not otherwise be able to access. And more importantly, you can do it privately. But what you might find quite interesting, if you can see the graph, sort of the picture in front of you, is how many access from the UK. We're one of the largest users of LinkedIn in the world. It's 20 million plus. YouTube. 1 in 2 people are using YouTube to access on the internet are using YouTube. Instagram, 400 million users. So what I'm trying to show you is how the world has changed, how you cannot afford to ignore this in business. I'm just going to show you one live stat, which you may find quite interesting. This is a site which gives up-to-date statistics on what is going on in the world. It's an extrapolation. I'm sure people aren't actually doing this right now, but it's an extrapolation of what's going on. If I can highlight a couple of things for you. 2.6 billion searches today on Google. Think about that, 2.6 billion. Again, it's so important that you're in tune to Google. Look how many phones are being sold today. Look how many smartphones sold today, 3.5 million sold today. Twitter users, 300 million. What I'm trying to show you here is how it's so important that you have to access the world of, you have to be embraced with the world and not just think property-wise, but think into a bigger picture. Now let's talk about cross-border. Now this graph here just shows you the use of VoIP. Now, we've got VoIP phones in our office. For those of you who don't know what a VoIP phone is, it's voice over internet. So what that means is that you can take your phone system and plug it into any internet port wherever you may be in the world, and the person who's phoning you doesn't know where you are. We've got people who work with us in South Africa, and what I'm trying to show you here is how many people, how easy it is, and how many people are using cross-border a way of communicating. WhatsApp, I'm sure everyone here has got WhatsApp. 1 billion users are on WhatsApp. So accessing the world and going outside the UK is so easy now and is so important in running your property business. Google Hangouts. Google Hangout is actually a very interesting way of again, accessing the market. I suspect that most people, most of you out there have never used Google Hangouts. Most of you actually probably don't know how to use it. We've started using it. It's a very, very easy way of promoting yourself by engaging with people who you don't know, and I'd encourage you to use Google Hangouts as a way of accessing the marketplace. So we've been using that in our agency, and we'll use any way we can in which to find buyers. So my message at the beginning of this, which I hope is of interest, are the points here. So this is general. This is not specifically to do with properties. The first thing is the power of the internet. The internet is, in my opinion, everything. You cannot ignore it. And if you ignore it, you will ignore it at your peril. Most agents in our game have spent the last 20 years by making a phone call to their friends, having a word, whispering a word in their ear, a deal coming up, a property for sale. That's been fine. The world's changed. Social media, as I've shown you, 2.3 billion people on social media at any one time. Again, you must use social media in marketing your properties. You must use social media in accessing properties. Google is the most powerful business in the world, in my opinion, because it controls everything. Mobile connectivity. The reason I wanted to show you the graph earlier about mobile connectivity, again, is a lot of websites, believe it or not, are still not mobile responsive. You have to be mobile responsive. You have to allow people to see the properties that you're selling on your phone. And the ease of cross-border communication, again, the reason I mention that is because you can't just access a UK market anymore. You must embrace the international marketplace. Now, we're all a lot of people watching, I believe, are agents today. So let's just think of the world of agency generally. I hear constantly the people telling us that property, we won't change, we don't do things like that. Well, look what's happened in the world of agency generally. TripAdvisor, 350 million unique visitors a month. 350 million. An agency, Skyscanner. I'm sure everyone, or 90% of you, have used Skyscanner to try and find flights. And Airbnb, everyone knows about. So what I've tried to show you so far is how you've got to look at what's going on in the wider world and not just be property focused, and use those tools and use the knowledge, which I hope has been a little bit surprising, in actually your own business. Right, let's now talk about property a bit more specifically. Okay, I think you might, again, I would hope you'll find this quite interesting. Let's talk about the residential agency world initially. And again, some of these facts that you're probably not aware of. It's basically two sorts of residential agencies. There's the new agencies and there's the traditional agencies. I'm sure by now everyone's come across Purple Bricks. Purple Bricks is the market leader, floated last year, floated at £1 a share. It's, as of this morning, 158 a share. It's gone up 55% in value since float. It's worth £373 million. Remember that, because I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So what do Purple Bricks do? Purple Bricks sell your house at a fixed low cost, listing on the various portals, providing you with the same service as the traditional agents, so they claim. We can talk about that. Next one, which again people may well have heard of, was Easy Property. Obviously using the Easy brand. It's the same principle. Easy Property were quite clever. What they did is they started their business as a letting agency, and then they evolved into a sales business, still relatively early in their evolution. Same principle, low cost, fixed price in selling. They raised money from the Tosca Fund in December, valuing the business at over 100 million. Easy Property originally launched about 18 months ago on Crowdcube, a crowdfunding website. They were looking to raise £1.5 million. They valued the business at £60 million before it was even live. So that was the hype in the marketplace. eMove backed by Hamilton Bradshaw, again did crowdfunding recently, raised another £2.5 million. House Simple, backed by Charles Dunstan, the man behind Carphone Warehouse, same principle, and so on. Hatch. The reason I mention Hatched is because Hatch relatively recently got bought by Connells. Now, so that's the online agency world. Let's talk about now the traditional agency world. Right, let's talk about Countrywide first of all. Countrywide is the biggest agency chain in the country. They've got multiple brands, 1,300 offices around the country. Now, the interesting thing about Countrywide is this. Share price today, 371 pence a share. A year ago, it was 589 pence a share. It's dropped by 37% in a year. The market capitalization is 814 million pounds. It's an established business. Remember what I said earlier about Purple Bricks? Purple Bricks, new, they're worth about 300 million on the market cap. Not that far off Countrywide, and Countrywide is an old established agency. Foxtons. Okay, we all know Foxtons. Excellent business, aggressive. If you ever tried to buy or sell off Foxtons, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Market capitalization today, 450 million pounds. Share price today, 158p, fallen 43% from a year ago. I'm not trying to knock these agents. I'm not trying to knock these firms. I'm just telling you what the market is doing. Knight Frank, another traditional agency. Again, we all know Knight Frank. Interesting enough, there was a report by Moore Stephens in March which said that the number of estate agents going out of business jumped by 16% last year. It went up from 160 in 2014 to 185, bucking the overall downward trend of the number of company insolvencies over the same period. Again, perhaps that's telling the agency world something. Another traditional agency, Chesterton. So the argument goes as follows. The new age agencies, the Purple Bricks, the Easy Properties of this world, will offer to sell your property at a low fixed cost. And they will say to you that they will access the marketplace and they will negotiate the deal for you. You go and talk to the traditional agencies. The traditional agencies will charge you 1.5% to 2% on selling your property. And they will say to you, in the old days, we have the buyer's list. And they did have the buyer's list in the old days, but they don't anymore. The Purple Bricks and Easy Properties will list your property on Zoopla and Rightmove in exactly the same way as Knight Frank or Foxtons will list. They'll do exactly the same thing. And in fact, if you're selling a property, I would suggest that you would actually be somewhat upset if you didn't see your property was actually on Rightmove or Zoopla. So what's actually in terms of accessing the buyer's list, they're both doing exactly the same thing. So then the argument with the traditional agency will say, but we know a marketplace and we can negotiate the sale for you. And they can't do that if they're online. Well, I would suggest that's not the case. And in fact, it's so easy. What I wanted to show you earlier is how easy it was to communicate with people. Now, you've probably all seen a live chat facility on websites. We use it ourselves. If you're buying a car at Mercedes or BMW, they've all got a live chat facility, as have the banks now. And it's very, very easy to live chat with somebody wherever they may be. If you actually go onto Sky now, you can actually see that you can live video chat and you'll have some guy sitting in a booth somewhere who's talking to you. Now, can you explain to me why someone who is an online agency cannot provide exactly the same service as a traditional agency? I mean, if you were selling your house, would you, and let's say, would you spend £10,000-15,000 with Foxtons or Chestertons or Savills, etc., or would you, in the first instance, try and use an online agency? So let's actually see what people say. Actually, let's if we all compare. Let's see what people have to say. So, would you buy from an online agency, and would you sell using an online agency? Exciting, isn't it? Real time, real time. Okay, so we are nearly done. I shall just give you a couple of more seconds to vote. Okay, I think we've got enough. Very interesting. Very interesting. So 60% of you would buy from an online agency. Virtually, so that's very few have said no. But when it comes to actually letting an online agency sell your house, you're less convinced. Um, I would. I'm a bit surprised by that, actually. I have to say, I would always let an online agency try and sell my house in the first instance, sake of £800 and £900, and if they fail, maybe then I go to a digital agency. I think the point about this is what's actually happening in the world, what's actually going on, and I think that the traditional agencies have got to deal with what's going on out there because the world is changing. I'm going to very quickly talk to you about the portals. Again, because it's part of the same area. We all know of Rightmove. We all know of Zoopla. Rightmove is the market leader. Zoopla is number 2. Zoopla's been going about, I think, been going about 6 or 7 years now. And then we've got the third one called On the Market. I don't know how many of you have actually heard of On the Market. I'll be careful what I say here. On the Market started relatively recently. By a number of the traditional agencies. Again, what they were doing is that they were suggesting that the Rightmoves and the Zooplas were charging too much, and they were trying to create a third portal in order to ensure that the price that they were paying as agents to the portals was actually kept down rather than continually increasing. Being public companies, they've got to increase their revenue streams. I think the large agencies chains were worried they were paying too much to those portals. As it happens, On the Market hasn't had very little impact to date. I think it's because they actually haven't got the power of Rightmove and Zoopla in terms of their spend. But equally, when they launched, they brought in a rule whereby if you were launching a property as an agency and you were signed up to use On the Market as a portal, you had to choose between Rightmove and Zoopla. You're trying to force people. So if you were selling your house and one day you get a phone call from an agent who says, actually, we've got this brand new web portal and your house is no longer on Rightmove, but it's on this new thing now called On the Market. Very sorry, but it's better than Rightmove. If you were selling, I think you might be challenging that. You might be a bit concerned. And indeed, I think that's what actually happened. And again, if you do follow the press, you'll see there is somewhat of a legal wrangle beginning to emerge where agencies are trying to get out of agreements with On the Market because it doesn't seem to have delivered the web traffic. The other thing which is worth mentioning on this particular point about how the agencies club together to form another portal to keep prices down, I wanted to give a rough idea about the pricing of Zoopla and Rightmove. Now, I'm not working at Zoopla and I'm not working at Rightmove, so I've really got nothing to gain here. And I'm using the prices that they've given us directly. Zoopla charging you £500, £600, £700, Rightmove £1,000 a month. I run web businesses. I know what it costs. I know what it costs to have high-speed hostings. I know what it costs to have IT teams. £700-800 a month for everything that they get is nothing. And I do not understand why the agents are actually worried about these charges. It really is, in my opinion, it's very cheap for what they're getting. So that is the residential market. Let's move on to the commercial market. Now, the commercial market is something that I know a bit more about because I'm a commercial agent. What I tried to show you earlier is the things that the key points in front of you, the importance of Google rankings, the importance of market reach, and is our community behind the curve? I think people now believe that it is behind the curve. I'm going to ask everyone, and then the next survey question, because I think this is actually very relevant to where we're going. So the next question is, how important would you say a high Google ranking is for a commercial agency? Somewhat interesting. Okay, I'd be interested. I should have actually asked the question. Would you have said this if I'd asked the question at the beginning of the webinar before I showed you the statistics? So, 56% think it's very important. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I'm going to show you something. I can't show you for other agencies because I'm not really tuned into what other agencies are trying to do. But I can show you for my own agency. This is investments for sale. So we're a small agency. Obviously, we're competing with the big firms. We're selling properties all day long. That's what we do. We're specialists on the investment side. Oh, I shared it with you. Okay. It's not bad. It's not bad. Look, it's taken me 25 minutes before I forgot to share a screen with you. Okay, so here we are. Here is a Google ranking for investments for sale. Typed in, you can see Singeville, my agency. We're a niche agency. We're number one. We're number one. We're ahead of Knight Frank, Savills, GVA. We're ahead of JLL, etc. That's the importance of Google. And I've tried to show you that from what we were saying earlier. The other thing I wanted to actually mention to you is email marketing. Now, again, I spoke to you earlier. I've shown you by proof the importance of cross-border communication. Again, I can't show you some information from other agencies, but I can share with you happily some information from our own agency. This is the back end of a system called Campaign Monitor. Campaign Monitor is the leading email system throughout the world. You have to have a validated database in order to access it. Our agency, we have a validated database. What I wanted to show you here, this is an email campaign which we sent out for, last Thursday for a property in Epping. And I think all I wanted to show you on this was where people are hitting where people are opening an email from. So you can see, of course, most people are opening from the UK, but look where else they're opening from. All over the world, like Philippines, Sri Lanka, South Africa, Middle East, Mexico. That's the power of email marketing. The next thing I want to show you is, again, on my website, just to share some information. I've talked about the importance of Google ranking and how you must embrace it as an agency and how many commercial agencies are not embracing it. This is Google Analytics. Now, you may probably have not all logged into Google Analytics. Oh, it says, Tim says we are number 8 on a Yahoo search. My answer to Tim is, I tried to show you earlier the importance of Google. I personally, you may be right, number 8 is still not bad, but page 1. But I don't think I can remember ever going on to Yahoo to do a search. Now I look, Seb Purty, who searches on Yahoo? There you are. Thank you very much. They have a bit of confidence. What I wanted to show you here is just the importance of understanding the data and why you must embrace the world. So this is the back end of Google Analytics, which is you can't make this up. This is them analyzing your site. So our own agency website has had, during the course of 2015, we've had 334,000 pages read. That's nearly 1,000 a day. And that is the power of Google. We've had 94,000 sessions. Let me show you something else, which I think you'll find interesting. Let's look at the geography. Let's look at where people are hitting a website from. Okay, so the top countries, UK, Russia, United States, Israel, South Africa, etc. But let's just go down. Let's show you how many countries. And look, let me just flick through this relatively slowly so you can see on your screen. Look, we're in the world. Let's go all the way down to the bottom. Look, 100. Let's have a look. 140. Look, someone in Virgin Islands, someone in Kosovo. That's the power. Oh, my video's gone. That's the power of the internet. Commercial agencies, for whatever reason, don't embrace it. And I do not, and I fail to understand it. So that's the commercial market. My message to my competitors, because they're going to find out anyway, is if you're not online, if you're not cross-border, if you're not high on Google, your business is not going to survive. I believe that the traditional way of doing agency, of phoning someone up, saying, can I please have 1% because there's a building for sale, those days are ending. If we're selling a property, we adopt a mass marketing approach for the very reasons I've shown you about cross-border communication, because the way people access from all over the world. So we do a mass marketing because we're always selling to people who are new. If someone phones a client up and says, there's a building coming up that Singeville is selling, can I please have £10,000 please? It's £1 million, it'll be on the market in about 10 minutes. Where's the value? I think that agencies are still operating in that fashion as best they can, but that is rapidly changing. Okay, halfway through, what prop tech is out there? I just thought what I would actually do now is share with you some information about things that we've come across technology-wise in the property world. I would encourage you to join up and follow the prop tech conferences that are out there. I see that Cameron Most is watching today, who was involved in an excellent conference last week. Now, what I want to show you, first of all, is Periscope. What we do at Singeville, we're trying to embrace everything new that is out there. For those of you who have not come across Periscope, Periscope is basically FaceTime for the masses. You can do a video, and anybody in the world can actually be watching you and can engage with you. So if you're marketing a property and you want to expose it to the world, we've tried extending our reach by using Periscope. I thought Periscope would actually become huge, but actually there is something new that actually has just launched, and that is Facebook Live. Now, what I don't know if I said to you earlier, please do follow me on Facebook Live. Although I can't seem to get a signal. Your connection isn't strong enough to go. There we go. Go live. So let me just show everyone can see. This is Facebook Live on my phone, and if any of you are actually now logging into your phone and actually following me on Facebook, you'll see a live stream of actually me talking right now. Now, Facebook, of course, has got 1.6 billion users in the world. So think about the marketing strength of what you're doing as a product. It's not just property, it'll be anything. We will actually be using this now as a tool to market properties in business. So I don't know if any of you are looking. Oh, I can't find you on Facebook, George. Look up Neil Singer. There can't be that many Neil Singers around. But I think actually if I finish it now, you'll be able to just see, I think it gets saved automatically to your news feed, and I think I'm public anyway. So again, I would encourage you to go and use Facebook Live, which I actually think is going to be huge and is going to grow extremely quickly. So those are marketing technologies which are out there and example things. When you actually think about what prop tech marketing technologies are out there, I don't think there actually are many specific for property. What I've tried to show you is the social media tools, emailing, Google, etc. I don't think they are specific for our business, but people for whatever reason don't embrace them, which is the most bizarre thing. I think you need to embrace them. So that's the marketing side. Let's look at the next topic I've got is presentation technologies. There are various companies around which are now doing virtual walkthroughs, and I want to show you one such example. The leading company is Matterport. You can buy a Matterport camera for about £3,000 or £4,000. It takes multiple photographs of a room, of a space, and as you can see, this is an example on their website. You can actually walk around a property, and it shows you depth, and let me see if I can go through a room for you. If I go to this corner over here, there we are. You can see. Hopefully you can see me walking through a building. What's in there? Toilet. There you are, look. Have a nice look. In fact, there's the camera. Look, there's the camera just in front of you. So that's how it works. The way these guys operate, they sell you the camera and then you hire effectively space on their cloud server. It's actually very cheap. You just need to have the right cameraman. But the point about this is that Matterport is a fantastic way of showing people property. You could sell a property to someone all over the world, and it's as if they're in it. In fact, I did actually at the PropTech conference, which was last week, try the Matterport camera, which is actually something which you put on screen, and you put it on screen, and you can actually, it's as if you're within the building. Cameron Most, lots come to the market soon. Comstack Reality. Yes, Cameron, we're we're getting there. We're getting there. Anyway, so I think the presentation tool is actually very interesting. There are things around which actually can make people can understand and buy a building actually without actually having going to see it. Now, in agency terms, our agency, Singerville, bizarrely, I can't answer why. We've been doing videos of our property sales for 10 years. We're the only one who does it. We do it on every single property we sell, and the reason and the rationale behind it is exactly the reason that I've shown you with the Matterport camera. The reason behind it is so that people can understand a property without having to actually inspect. There's one thing I think, and we've actually sold to people all over the world as a result, and you'll be surprised by a building without actually inspecting. The one thing I think will arise with the Matterport type technology is, how do you know that this is the building that you're actually buying? And it could be anybody, it could be anyone's building. I think what will happen is there will emerge some sort of legal stamp which will actually prove that that is the property that you're actually purchasing. So that's an example of the sort of presentations that are presentation tools out there, and I'd keep an eye out for that. Next thing, let's talk about information suppliers. Everyone in commercial property knows about CoStar. CoStar is a hugely powerful American company who will collate information and sell it back to the agents. There's a bit of noise going on where some agents are rather concerned that they are giving away information to CoStar for free, and then CoStar are selling it back to them. Now, is CoStar really technology? I don't think so. I think it's a book. It's just a collection of information which happens to be online. I don't think it's any more, any less. Another very interesting system which is information is Dacia. Now, I had a presentation on Dacia last week. Dacia is very interesting in that it collates reliable information. It's not provided by the agents. It's information which is provided by land registry, by the rating office, things like that, and it's designed to provide property professionals with particular information in particular areas so you can identify the owner of a property. So I think, again, it's very interesting. Is it technology? I'm not so sure. I think it's probably again, collating information and putting it into a very easy to use format. Another one which is new is Realla. Realla is a listing site, particularly for commercial property. Again, I wouldn't say it's technology that is unique, but it is a very interesting website. I would encourage you to go and have a look at Realla. I think Realla is unique at the moment. I'm not aware of any other listing sites specifically trying to collate information for commercial agents. Commercial agents are typically very nervous of giving away information. They're very nervous of undermining their own existence. Now, what was very interesting at the PropTech conference last week was a clear message that people do not like to share information in commercial property, whereas in every other industry where information has been shared amongst those professionals, it's increased turnover, increased money. It's put money in people's pockets, and that is something which we in property are very poor at releasing, because there's a fear factor amongst commercial agents. So I think CoStar is not reliable. Yeah, you are. I think CoStar is. I would agree with that. I'm not sure it really is that leading technology. Right. So that's information supplies. Let's move on. Let's talk about transactional engines and what's going on in the transactional world online, which again is something which I know about. Very, very little. This, I think, is symptomatic of the issues we've got with commercial property and also residential property. There are very, very few agencies trying to embrace online when it comes to transactions. Lambert Smith has recently launched an online auction site to run alongside its existing auction site. This is the auction page right now for the online auction from Lambert Smith. Now, Lambert Smith are running an eBay style auction. What that means is that you log in, and there's a clock starts ticking, and it counts down, and you put your bid in, and you wait and see whether your bid's been actually accepted. You're bidding against a computer. Now, let's have a look here at what they've actually managed to achieve. Withdrawn, £220,000, £97,000, £48,000. They've not really had an impact. Why? Well, my personal view is that people do not like bidding against a computer. And I think that what's happened is that people have been trying to change the way auctioning occurs. There's another site which is actually worth having a quick look at. I'm not sure they will achieve much or not. I really don't know. Is a relatively new company called Lot 11. Lot 11 is doing exactly the same thing. It is doing an eBay style auction system. I don't think that is the way forward. I think it's trying to reinvent the way people are auctioning property rather than putting online what people already do. Now, I went to the RICS auctioneering conference last Monday, which was very interesting in that the auctioneers were somewhat depressed. What you may be surprised to know is that the share of the market being sold by the auctioneers has not increased in 10 years. They sell 1.9% of the market, and they are still selling 1.9% of the market, and they are wondering why their share hasn't increased. And there was a lot of talk at this conference last week, how can we get our message out? We all know how fantastic it is to auction properties, and it's the best way of selling, etc., etc. I was in the room, and I was thinking, well, maybe the market is actually trying to tell you something, and maybe people don't want to buy by auction. If you look about the eBay style auction in America, it is actually it's actually growing somewhat, and there's a lot of companies. It doesn't lead to, I believe, into necessarily a binding contract at the end. I still think you have to sign a contract, but let's just have a look and see how many of you have actually bid in an eBay style property auction. Has anybody bid in an eBay style property auction? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So, are we nearly done? Okay, so look, let me share the votes. Let me share the results with you. Virtually no one has bid in an eBay style property auction. I certainly wouldn't myself. I think it is a flawed process personally. I think that it is trying to reinvent the way auctioning occurs, and I don't think there's a future for it. At this point, something which I do know about very much so. Let me talk to you about click to purchase. For those of you who don't know, we created Click to Purchase. We launched it at Singerville. Click to Purchase is actually a way of legally buying properties online. What we were looking to do was not enable people to buy by auction, but we were actually looking to enable people to buy by private treaty. The reason we did it actually is because initially we were purely looking at it as a way of winning business. But after the recession of 2009, we noticed that the buying audience that were actually engaging with us were people who had no track record of buying property. And you never knew if they were going to do a deal or not. Secondly, we had an international reach to our website. And thirdly, we had a client where we had a particularly difficult property and the property kept falling through. So the client decided to disinstruct us. They didn't blame us. They said it was a problem property and they gave it to an auction house. And the reason is they wanted the certainty of sale. So that got us thinking. We thought, what can we do online and provide certainty of sales to the marketplace? And we created Click to Purchase. It was an experiment. We launched it in our own agency. Click to Purchase is a way that you can make a legal offer to treat online. It's as if you've signed a contract note and put it on your desk. It's as if you have put your hand up in an auction room if one's running an auction. Our auctions, which actually we don't actually do many, but we do have the auction facility, is a complete emulation of the traditional auction room. It's purely online. Bidders bid in real time against a live auctioneer who is interacting with the bidding audience and can control. The other reason which I think the eBay style auction is fundamentally flawed is that if you wanted to go to Allsops or you wanted to go to a traditional auction house to buy, you can buy prior. You can phone them up and say, I'm willing to come in. and I want to sign the contract there and then. The eBay style online auctions do not allow that. With click to purchase, you can do that. We've sold properties minutes before live auctions because someone has made a live online offer to treat at a level which we actually think is a good level, and we clicked a button, and we've exchanged. The other key pointer, I know I'm not specifically trying to plug click to purchase. I'm just want to tell you about how it's emerged. When we started, people said that nobody would buy properties online. We've executed over £135 million of the properties online. We've sold by private treaty, by best offers, and by auction. We've sold to people in the UK and abroad. Click to purchase is now a separate business to the agency. It's being used in South Africa, in Ireland, and in the UK, and we are hoping to embrace it. We're hoping the market will embrace it. We want to create a market norm. It is proven. Version 2 is out soon, so quick plug. If anybody would like to use click to purchase, please give us a call. What's interesting about it, something which we not necessarily had realized when we created it, was this, is that out of 300,000 homes which are sold in the year to April 2013, 1 in 7 collapsed because the vendor pulled out. People pulling out of deals is the biggest problem. The thing about empowering a buyer to make an offer, put their money down, and actually show their true intent, and they want to buy a building, is all powerful. People will turn around and say nobody wants to buy online. They're scared to do so. It's completely the contrary. You've got to remember one thing. If you're selling a building, you want to sell it. If you're a buyer, you want to buy it. You do not want to wait 3 months to buy the property. The key point about click to purchase is it's agent operated. You need a legal package in the same way as if you are taking a property to a traditional auction room, but the person who exchanges the contract is the agent. The person who calls the best offer is the agent. Cameron earlier mentioned about transparency. Transparency is becoming more and more important in our world. Money laundering is becoming more and more important in our world. You have to have an electronic history to whatever you're doing. Click to purchase provides a way whereby people make offers. There's a full electronic history of the verification process, of the bidding process, of the exchange process. If anybody ever challenged you, it's electronic, it can't be made up, it can be proven. That's where the world is going. We just happen to be the first, but I'm sure others will emerge. Let me just share with you some other systems out there. Let's talk about some management systems. So I'm just going to flick through some of the technologies that I've come across, which I think you might find quite interesting, and I would encourage you to actually have a look and look them up. I mentioned Fixflow as a management system because Fixflow recently had an investment by Zoopla. It's a tracking system for the property maintenance, which seems to be gaining a reputation. Rather than phoning up an agent and not having a paper trail, it seems to create a paper trail. I don't do management, but it seems to be gaining a following. I don't think, though, it's actually as good as another system that I've come across called Arthur Online, which I believe has something like 18,000 users now. Arthur Online is a management system where you don't have to phone anybody. You do everything through your phone or through your iPad. Let's say you're a tenant and you've got a leak. You take a picture of the leak, you upload it to your system. You send it to your landlord. Your landlord puts it out to his contractors. The contractor sees it, takes the job's done. There's actually no talking. It's all done online. To me, that's real technology. Another thing I would mention to you, which is quite interesting, because Zoopla recently invested in it, is Trussell. Trussell is an aggregator. It's an online mortgage system. It's where you can find a mortgage. I always said that my kids will find a property online, which they can do now. I said they will get a mortgage online. I think now Trussell helps you, and they'll exchange online with things like click to purchase will do. That's the world we're in. Another thing I would actually take a look at, again, this is something which has had recent investments in it. Have a look at LandBay. LandBay has so far lent £40 million. It's peer-to-peer lending online. I'm not sure about these myself. I'm not sure there is a real future. I think that These are interesting technologies in that they are enabling the private investor to invest with relatively small amounts of money. But if you're looking to raise money, you would of course traditionally have gone to a bank. What may happen is the banks may end up starting doing the same thing, because if their market share actually starts to retract because of all these online systems emerging, if you were running a bank, I'm sure you'd try and find a new way of making ease of access for people wanting to borrow money off you. So I'm not sure about the future, but I would have a look at Landbay. One which was mentioned to me last week, which actually I hadn't come across before. I want to mention a few technologies that are around that are actually in America, which are quite interesting and actually are coming to the UK. VTS is a commercial leasing and asset management platform for landlords and agents. It claims to have 2.6 billion square feet of real estate on its books, and it claims that 80% of the top 10 global investment managers use VTS. The reason it's worth mentioning, and the reason it's worth you having a look at VTS, is they raised last month $55 million in order to expand, and they are looking to expand into the UK. So I think that's quite an interesting system. I actually found it a bit complicated when I actually went into their website, probably because I'm not an asset manager, but I would encourage you to have a look at that one. Office Smarter. This actually is another Office Smarter. This is Liquid Space. This is another interesting website which is in America. I haven't seen anything like this in the UK yet. It's really again, it's an aggregator of information, but what is very interesting is you can book space by the hour as well as doing long-term or monthly rent. So you can actually just go into an what's this one? Can you please exact spelling for the website you mentioned? Which one would that have been? Was that the previous website? Was that Landbay you're after, or VTS? I'll tell you what, if anybody wants to contact us, Dacia, if anybody wants to contact me afterwards, I'll very happily send you a list of links to all these websites. It's really not a problem. Going back to Liquid Space. So Liquid Space is very interesting in that you're able to book hourly or weekly or monthly. So I think it's quite interesting. If you're landing in a city and you just need a meeting room, I think it's a very interesting space, actually. I'd actually have a look at that one. The other one which I found quite interesting was Pivot Desk. Pivot Desk, again, another American company, seems to be gaining a holding. Pivot Desk is for companies who've got excess space. So if you've got excess space and you actually want to rent out that space to users, it's a site you can go to, and you can put up your 200 square feet, and someone can come along and they can rent off you. Again, is that technology? Not really. But what is interesting, it's using the internet as a way of bypassing the letting agent. Unfortunately, I have to say to other letting agents out there, that's the truth of the matter. Next one is I would have a look at is Fundrise. Fundrise, again, it's an American crowdfunding website. It seems to be doing pretty well, and the reason I'd have a look at it, they claim to have 94,000 members. So again, I would have a look at that. There's quite a lot of talk about crowdfunding for property. I've already given you my views. So the question is what's coming, all right? That's what's out there. The question is what's coming. Now, Easy Property, which actually is a company I know quite well, recently commissioned a report by a company called the Futures Laboratory. So Futures Laboratory is an international consultancy which, not surprisingly, looks at the future. And they commissioned a report recently called 2020 Report. And they were talking about what's coming. The things that are coming are things like beacon technology. A beacon technology, rather than going past a house and where it's got a board up and says for sale, you'll walk past a house and you'll get a notification on your phone that is for sale and who's selling it. That's the way things are going. A beacon. If you look up online, go onto Amazon, look up online. The beacons are tiny. You can buy them very cheaply. You can put whatever message you whatever message you like, and it'll get beamed out to people. I've already spoken to you about virtual reality. I would, again, encourage you to look at those websites. They are incredible. I think they will become the norm. I think you'll go into every estate agency, and I think you will be able to see a property fully without actually having to inspect it. It just saves time and money and efficiency. And the last thing I'll mention today, because my hour is almost up, is how you will actually be able to go into a virtual room decorate your virtual room, put your furniture in place. You can visualize something that you're buying. Again, this technology is already there. It's just not being rolled out. It's the same as going online and buying a car and choosing the color and choosing the wheels. It's exactly the same thing. So what I try to show you today is that really technology is everything. The property industry is amazingly behind the curve. We've embraced it. We've seen the power of it in our business. I would encourage anybody who's in property to embrace it. I would reiterate the key points I said earlier. I think you've got to look at the power of the internet in whatever business you're in. You've got to use social media if you're not using it, or if you want to see the power of social media, just follow us in one guise or another. Follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn, or just follow us or join one of our Google Hangouts, and you'll see how easy it is to access. Just as an example, recognize the power of Google. Google is the most powerful business in the world. It's more powerful than Apple. And if you don't, you're going to miss a trick. Make sure that everything that you're doing when you're selling, or even if you're an asset manager, if you're looking after your properties, make sure it can be accessed from a phone, or you will lose your clients. And be aware of that the world is shrinking and how easy it is to sell to people all around the world, how easy it is to buy all around the world. And hopefully those messages are of use. So what hopefully I've done today is I've shared with you some information about the world we're in generally, the resi market, and let's see what happens. And from our poll today, most people were happy to use an online agency to sell. I've shown you how the share price has been falling for the traditional agencies. My personal view is that the traditional agency will be reducing in numbers far quicker than people realize. I've shown you about the commercial agency market, incredibly slow at adopting technology. So few technologies out there, it's actually quite bizarre. I think the market's had a good rally. I think the last couple of years people have been making money. The one thing I've learned about technology is this: if it doesn't put money in your pocket, people won't use it. People are not interested in technology to be leaders in technology. It's about improving business efficiency. What hopefully I've shown you today is that commercial property is crying out for those improvements in efficiency, and will benefit, and will all benefit. We will adjust the way we work. So hopefully that is useful for you. I have to ask everybody there's one question. In order to get your CPD certificate, I have to give you a question to prove that you've actually watched until the end. So I need to think of let me think of a good question for you. So my favorite animal is without dogs. I've got 2 dogs. My dogs are called Boris and Betsy. So write that down, Boris and Betsy. If you can name my dogs in an email to us, then you get your CPD certificate. Okay, so thanks very much for watching today. And if you want a picture of Boris and Betsy, let me know. I'm very proud of them. Very proud of them. Okay, so if anybody's got any questions, anybody wants to contact me or my team, please feel free to do so. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that was useful. End session. Email address. You can contact me at neil@singervale.co.uk. If you're interested to look at the online, if you're interested to look at properties that we're selling and how we go about it, please look at singervalesales.com. If you're interested in online technology, please look at clicktopurchase.com. Okay, hopefully that was useful. Have a good day. Thank you.